When I was 3, my sister was born. She was born with a large purple birthmark on the right side of her face and neck. Her birthmark didn't hurt. In fact, it didn't impair her at all, but it was highly visible. I grew up seeing the stares and hearing the questions and comments, most of which were not particularly kind. My sister showed me firsthand what it can be like to be seen as different, to stand out in a way that isn't necessarily positive, and that changes the way the world interacts with you. Today, I work at the Centre for Appearance Research, a world-leading research centre focused on the role that appearance plays in people's lives. I've studied the value our society places on appearance and the unrelenting message that beauty is synonymous with success and happiness. I've witnessed the unhealthy behaviours we engage in pursuit of the perfect body, and the dissatisfaction we feel when our appearance still fails to match up. Our society's beauty standards may be unrealistic, even unattainable, but they are also inescapable. Consider what it's like then to differ not only from the beauty ideal, but also from the norm. In the UK alone, 1 in 5 people have a scar, mark, or condition that significantly impacts the way they look. Some people are born with an appearance-altering condition, while others acquire their difference later in life, due to illness or injury. At our research centre, we refer to these conditions collectively as visible difference. People who are visibly different attract unwanted attention on an almost daily basis. In essence, they lose the underestimated ability to be anonymous. This forces them to confront additional appearance-related challenges, not only in relation to how they see themselves, but also in the reactions of others. But isn't it what's on the inside that counts? Isn't beauty in the eye of the beholder? Sadly, our research has shown that appearance matters. We implicitly assign positive characteristics and higher value to those who we deem to be beautiful. In stark contrast, significant numbers of people would avoid sitting next to someone with a visible difference on a train. Teachers may underestimate the intellectual ability of children with a facial difference. And jurors may offer less sympathy to people with visible difference who are victims of crime. So where do these underlying assumptions about visible difference come from? First, as humans, we are instinctively drawn to aspects of appearance that differ from what we expect to see. When we see something unusual, our brain triggers an automatic and involuntary physiological response, a type of fight, flight, or freeze. We may feel awkward or embarrassed, be overwhelmed by our curiosity, or simply withdraw from the encounter altogether for fear of saying or doing the wrong thing. Second, our society continues to reinforce outdated and unhelpful appearance-related stereotypes. In film and on television, people with aesthetic and physical differences are given less screen time and less prominence in storylines. When they do feature, they are more likely to be portrayed as childlike or reclusive, or as the villain. Even documentary series tend to focus on rare or extraordinary differences for entertainment and shock value. These societal messages underpin the idea that what is beautiful is good, and that physical marks or impairments are something to pity, to fear, to be ashamed of. It is perhaps unsurprising then that having a visible difference can have a profound impact on the psychological well-being and social experiences of those affected, as well as their families, partners, and friends. Over the years, I've had the privilege of hearing hundreds of stories about what it's like to live with difference. Stories like Jamie's, who was bullied so badly as a teenager that she was too afraid to leave her home for over a year. Or Samuel, who was denied an important business investment because he was simply told his face didn't fit. Stories like Amir's, whose future father-in-law strongly believed that marrying Amir was the worst possible fate his daughter could endure. In light of these types of experiences, it is not uncommon for people with visible difference to struggle with anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. Unfortunately, the onus is often on the individual to change. Every year, thousands of people with a visible difference undergo surgery and other treatments to reduce the visibility of their condition. These appearance-focused interventions can be prolonged, painful, and disruptive to daily life. They are also often medically unnecessary. The assumption is that if appearance is restored, quality of life will also improve. Medical treatment is seen as a way to improve confidence and increase the likelihood of social acceptance. Although for some people this may well ring true, it is rarely that simple. Surgery often fails to produce a long-term change in quality of life or a sustained reduction in appearance concerns. Medical complications can occur, which can be incredibly traumatic. And, if not well managed, the person may hold unrealistic expectations about what the medical intervention can actually achieve, which can cause them significant emotional distress, even if the treatment is seen to be successful from a medical point of view. Treatment to change appearance is not the problem in itself, provided it is that person's informed choice to go ahead. But I still can't help but question, would people choose to undergo these treatments if they already felt they belonged? If our society hadn't given them the message, often from an early age, that they are broken and in need of repair? Would parents decide to put their child through an appearance-altering operation without the belief that their child would be socially disadvantaged if they did nothing? And should we really expect people to surgically alter the way they look to make the rest of us feel more comfortable? The alternative is that we take another look at our society and the values it holds when it comes to appearance. Together, we can challenge the obstructive messages that persist in our society and instead work towards creating environments that are inclusive and accepting of diverse appearances, starting in our schools. Second, and although the media is one of the worst offenders when it comes to the portrayal of unhelpful stereotypes, we can commit to harnessing it as a powerful instrument for change. Both traditional and social media offer the potential to educate our communities about the types and causes of visible difference and to give voice to those affected on a mass scale. Crucially, we need more and better representation of people with visible difference on our screens, in advertisements, in fashion, and in everyday life. We need film and television characters who happen to have a visible difference, but who are not defined by it. If we saw people with diverse appearances reflected in all aspects of our society, it would no longer feel so shocking or unfamiliar. Societal change takes time, but we can also look closer to home by challenging some of our own appearance-related assumptions and behaviours. There is so much more to us than the way we look. If you happen to meet someone with a visible difference, be mindful of staring and say hello. Have a respectful conversation as you would with anyone else. And if you're with a child, explain to them that everyone looks different, and that's a good thing. The tide is changing when it comes to how we feel about appearance. Society has had enough. We have had enough of society's narrow view of beauty and of never seeing ourselves represented. While there is plenty more work to do, we are making strides towards inclusion of people from all ethnicities, sexualities, genders, ages, and body size and shape. I believe a crucial part of this progress is greater acceptance and representation of people with visible difference. My sister has overcome many adversities in her life. At the age of just 14, she made the difficult decision to end treatment for her birthmark, choosing not to completely erase an important part of who she considers herself to be. Of all the people I've met in my life, those with a visible difference are undoubtedly some of the strongest. But I wish they hadn't had to be. Being different is not something to be fixed. It is not something to be ashamed of or to hide. Instead of expecting people who are different to blend in, let's strive for a society that values everyone's unique contributions. Instead of seeing difference to be other or something to be avoided, let's work towards education and inclusion. And instead of viewing beauty to be good and any deviation from our unattainable standards to be bad, let's recognize that appearance diversity is beautiful and something to be celebrated. Thank you.